Dr. Moayedi, I want to start with you. What should we know about both of these drugs? And what do you worry about if mifepristone is pulled from the market?
Thank you so much for having me. What we need to know about both of these drugs is that they are incredibly safe, and they have decades of global safety data for their use across a variety of spectrums. Mifepristone was approved in the United States right around the year 2000, but it has been used in Europe for a decade or more prior to that. We have thousands upon thousands of patients that have safely used it, not only for abortion care, but to manage miscarriages as well. Mifepristone combined with misoprostol is highly effective treatment to expedite a miscarriage too. Misoprostol is not even FDA labeled for use in obstetrics and gynecology. Misoprostol is used across my practice in all sorts of gynecological settings. So we use it to help in labor induction when someone is about to deliver. We use it for miscarriage management, abortion care. We use it prior to surgeries inside of the uterus when we need to access the cervix. So these are drugs that have an extremely long safety record, and pulling mifepristone from the market isn't based in science. It's not based in good healthcare at all. It is simply about anti-abortion extremists finding new ways to restrict our right to healthcare.
Melissa, it's impossible not to listen to Dr. Moayedi and be reminded that what we are talking about here is healthcare, and that it's not a coincidence that this case is in front of an anti-abortion judge out of Texas. What should we know about Kaczmarek's background and how exactly he ended up in this spot, and how the anti-abortion movement is working to get these kinds of cases before these kinds of judges?
Well, Judge Kaczmarek was picked by Leonard Leo for this spot on the Texas District Court that he now occupies. Again, there's been a lot of reporting this week about Leonard Leo's role in the Trump administration as sort of the outsourced source for all of those Trump nominations. And Matthew Kaczmarek is one of those individuals that was identified by the Federalist Society. He was active in the Federalist Society while a student at the University of Texas Law School. He is very conservative. He has some ties to First Liberty Institute, which is an incredibly conservative Christian organization that defends religious freedom. He swore when he was confirmed that he would shift from being an advocate to being a judge. But interestingly, when individuals have to file lawsuits pursuing conservative causes in federal court, they seem to find their way to Amarillo, Texas, where Judge Kaczmarek happens to be the only judge in the only courthouse in Amarillo.
Yeah, it's so coincidental, don't you think, Melissa?
There's a lot of forum shopping there. I mean, people know what they're going to get. I mean, this is the same judge that invalidated the Biden administration's care for transgendered individuals. It is also the same judge that invalidated the Biden administration's return to Mexico policy. So, I mean, this is someone who has been a reliable vote for conservative causes that have national implications. So one single judge in Texas is actually managing to stymie the entire domestic agenda of this presidential administration.
Right. And to that point, Dr. Moayedi, you are in Texas. You have Texas Republicans pushing forward, finding new ways to end abortion access. I am struck by the fact that this decision that happens in Texas is going to impact people across this country. But I wonder for you as a provider being in Texas, one, the precarious situations you then find yourselves in. I've talked to a lot of other providers who say, I'm on the phone with legal when I need to be making life-altering decisions about care. That's not the person I should be speaking with, right? I should be laser focused on my patients. And I wonder what it tells you about the priorities of lawmakers in your state.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to recognize that, yes, this is a lot of what has been happening is happening in Texas, but this is not a Texas problem. That Republicans and anti-abortion extremists, white supremacists in this country are exploiting the Texas court system, exploiting the Texas political system to advance a very extreme agenda and really destroy democracy in our country. And you're exactly right. As a physician, is my role to have as many lawyers as I do and constantly be talking with lawyers and consulting with lawyers about how to take care of my community? Absolutely not. I went to medical school. I got obstetrics and gynecology training. I got fellowship training in advanced abortion care so that I could take care of my community using medical evidence, scientific fact, and my experiences, not to ask a lawyer a hospital administrator or my state representatives how to provide evidence-based care, or really how to perpetuate propaganda and anti-science information among my community.